In our last lesson, we learned about zero-shot prompting. With zero-shot prompting, we were able to deliver many real-world use cases. But there are situations where zero-shot prompting is not good enough. The situations are such that we want the model response in a specific format, but default responses are generally not deterministic. So how to handle such situations? To handle such situation, there is another technique in prompt engineering called one-shot prompting. One-shot prompting is a technique in prompt engineering where a single example is provided to the language model to guide its response. This one-shot prompting is extremely helpful for the tasks that requires a specific structure, formats, or style in the response. By just providing one example inside the prompt, this one-shot prompt technique helps us improve the accuracy, consistency, and the relevance of model responses. So how it works? Basically, the prompt includes three things. Number one, the instruction. Number two, one example. And then number three, the cue to the model. Instruction is the main part where you provide the task specific instructions to the model, where you set the role for the model or you set the tone for the model. After the instruction, we provide one sample example. Here we provide a single well-crafted example that demonstrates how to approach the task or solve the problem. The example should be detailed enough to illustrate the necessary steps, format, or reasoning processes. This example should ensure clarity and precision to avoid any ambiguity that will lead to incorrect responses. In this example, we can clearly see that it has three parts. The first part is the task instruction, where we are saying that convert the following raw data into a JSON format, followed by an example. And in the example, we can clearly see that there is a raw data and what should be the JSON format for that raw data is provided in that example. And after the example, the third part of the prompt structure is cue for the model, where you actually provide the actual user data which needs to be converted, and then you leave that prompt with the cue. You just say that JSON format and leave the model to generate the remaining part, which is the final answer. Now, depending on the tools you are using or the models you are using, you can ingest this one-shot prompt in three different ways. The first option is where you put the instruction and the example inside the system prompt, and then in the user prompt, you ingest the cue for the model. The second way of ingesting this one-shot prompt to the language model is directly through the system prompt. And the third way is for such situations where many language models or the tools doesn't understand the system prompt and the user prompt structure. They only understand the user prompt. So in such situations, you can put the entire one-shot prompt into the user prompt and ingest to the language model. Okay, so this was all about the structure of the one-shot prompt, how it looks like and how to ingest this one-shot prompt to the language models. Now let us talk about some real-world use cases. To name a few use cases where one-shot prompting can be used is the customer support response generation, social media post creation, raw data to JSON conversion or complex data formatting, log analysis, educational summarization, information retrieval, text generation, name entity recognition, content moderation, recommendation systems, and many more. Okay, so without further ado, let us try to implement some of these use cases. So let us install OpenAI libraries because we are going to use OpenAI models and their APIs. Then we shall import the libraries. We are using OpenAI API and their model. Therefore, we need OpenAI API key. If you do not have your API key, then you need to create your account on OpenAI and generate your API key first. You can search on Google how to generate OpenAI API key and you will get the required information. I have generated my OpenAI API key and configured it inside Google Colab
secrets here. So this is my OpenAI API key. So you can also create your OpenAI API key on OpenAI website, and then you can configure it here. Here, I'm using userdata.get function to get my API key from the Colab account and storing it in this local variable, my secret key. Now we need to initialize a client for interacting with OpenAI API. So this part of the code is calling the constructor of the OpenAI class from the OpenAI library. This constructor creates a new client object that can communicate with the OpenAI API. Here, API underscore key is where you need to assign your API key. Then I have this helper function. Let me explain this helper function. So this line defines a function named get underscore response, which takes two parameters called messages and model. Model is where we are setting GPT 3.5 turbo model because this is what we are going to use. This messages is expected to be a list of message objects formatted according to the requirements of the OpenAI API. So this messages will hold the system prompt and the user prompt. Now let us understand this part of this helper function. This part of the code is where the function interacts with the OpenAI API using the client object. So this is our client object. Using this client object, we are calling chat.completions.create API from OpenAI library. Here we are assigning this model to the model, which is GPT 3.5 Turbo. And in the messages, we are assigning our messages, which we are passing here. Then max token, we are setting it to 2000. The model will generate up to 2000 tokens in its response. This temperature, which we are setting 0.2, it controls the randomness of the output. A lower temperature like 0.2 results in more deterministic and less random response, making them more predictable and conservative. And finally, this function will return the content generated by this model, GPT 3.5 Turbo. Okay, so now our setup is ready. Let us try to implement our use cases. Let us implement our first use case, which is customer support response generation. Now, here the task is to automatically generate email responses to customer emails. So this is our system prompt. In the system prompt, we are first setting the role for the model. So we are saying you act as a customer support system. And then we are saying your task is to generate professional email response to the customer inquiry. And because we are dealing with one-shot prompting, so we need to provide one example response. So this is our example. So what we're saying that if this is the customer email, where this is the subject, and then the date, and John Doe is the customer, then this is the response generated by the language model, where it says, Dear John, and this is the email body. And after email body, it says, best regards, customer support team. So for this example email, this is the response model will generate. Now, the third part of the prompt is the queue. So now for this new customer query or new customer email, this is the queue which will hint the model that now it has to generate the response. So let us run this piece of the code. So our prompts are initialized. Then this is our message list. In the message list, we are now appending our system prompt and user prompt. And then we are calling our get response function where we are passing our message list. So let us run this. Great. So this is the response model has generated. So this is the email response model has generated for this customer inquiry. Okay, so the customer was Jen Smith. So it says, Dear Jen, and thank you for contacting us regarding the delay in receiving your order. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. To assist you further, could you please provide us with your order number or tracking information? So basically, the customer email was about some delay So customer email was like, hello, I placed an order 2 weeks ago, but it has not arrived yet. Can you provide an update on the shipping status? Thank you. So for this is the email model has generated. Perfectly fine. So this way, if you see in the prompt, in the system prompt, we provided the instruction, then we provided one example, and then in the user prompt for the new query, you just provided the queue to the model that it has to now generate the response for this email. Okay, now let us move to our next use case, which is social media post creation. Now here, the task is to generate engaging social media post for marketing campaign. Now here, if you see, again in the system prompt, because we are working with one-shot prompting, so we will be providing the instruction to the model, then we will be providing one example. And then in the user prompt, we will be asking for the task. So this is the user query with queue to the model. Now in the system prompt, we are saying you act as a marketing campaign creator. Your task is to create marketing campaign through social media. And then we're providing one example. Now the example here is product announcement. So for product announcement, the product is eco-friendly water bottle, and this is the description. So for this product, this is the social media post the model is supposed to generate. So with this example, model will be able to learn that how it has to generate the post for marketing campaign. And then in the user prompt for new marketing campaign, user will just provide the product name and the description, and then it will just provide the queue to the model that now it has to generate the social media promotional content for this product. Let us initialize this and do the same thing. So in our message list, we will append system prompt and user prompt, and then call the get response function. And this is the response generated by the model. So the product was wireless earbuds, and the description of the product was experience crystal clear sound with our latest wireless earbuds. These earbuds are perfect for music lovers on the go. So this was the product description. And now this is the social media promotional content model generated. It says, immerse yourself in your favorite tunes with our new earbuds. Enjoy crystal clear sound quality, noise cancellation, and comfortable fit for all day listening. So for this product, this is the social media promotional content the model has generated. Very well. Now let us move to our next use case, which is creating JSON from raw data. Here, the task is to convert raw data into JSON format. Now, when you are converting your raw data in the JSON format, you may have your specific requirement of the JSON structure, and therefore you can just let that model know your structure through one-shot prompting. So here in the system prompt, we are saying you act as a data formatter. Your task is to convert raw data into a JSON format, and then we are providing one example. In this example, we are saying this is the raw data where you have name, age, email, and interests. And then for this raw data, you generate a JSON like this. Now, this will help language model to learn what is the JSON format user is expecting. Now, in the user prompt, you just provide your raw data, and then you set the queue for the model. Now, let us initialize this, then run this piece of the code where we will be configuring our message list. We will be appending system prompt, user prompt, and then calling this get response function. And then this is the response the model has generated. This is in the same format of this example, which was set in the system prompt. Great. Now let us implement another use case, which is complex data formatting. Here, the task is to format a CSV file into a specific JSON structure. Now, Before we start implementing this with one-shot prompting, let us implement this using zero-shot and see the gap. For zero-shot, in the system prompt, we are saying that you act as a CSV file formatter. Your task is to convert CSV into JSON format. So this will set the role for the model. And then in the user prompt, we are saying convert the following CSV data into JSON format. And this is the CSV data, which has name, age, and city 3 columns, and these 2 records. Let us initialize this and run this code. So this is the JSON output model has generated, where it has name, age, city, for these 2 records. Okay, now let us try to implement this using one shot. Now here in the system prompt, our instructions are same, like you act as a CSV data formatter. Your task is to convert CSV into JSON format. But in addition, we are providing one example. So this is our CSV data, and this is the JSON output I'm expecting. So this is one example for one shot. Now in the user prompt, this is the user input, and then we are setting the queue for the model. Now let us run this, and you will see the difference. So this is the output. Now let us see the difference. So this is the JSON output in the format we are looking for. And we were able to achieve that with one shot. In zero shot, model was not able to produce the output in our desired format because it was producing the JSON in its own default formatting. Let us move to our next use case, which is log analysis. Here, the task is to summarize the error logs from a large set of system log file. Now, let us see how the zero shot prompting will work and the results of zero shot. When you implement this in zero shot, we could say that analyze the following log entries and summarize the errors. So this is the system prompt, and in the user prompt, we can just pass the log file. Now let us see the response. So this is the response. So zero shot says that the log entries indicate errors related to connecting to the database during a backup process. The errors encountered are this. And these errors suggest that there were issues with stabilizing a connection to the database. Now, if I run this once again, let us see the output. Now you see, here the output is changed now. So now the output is not consistent, although it is doing the summarization, but the output is not the way we are looking for, that every time it should produce in a certain format. And again here, the one-shot prompting will help us achieve that. Now, in the one-shot, we are saying that analyze the following log elements and summarize the errors using the format shown in the example. And then we are providing one example, like for if this is the log file, then this is the output the model need to produce. So this is an example we are providing using one-shot prompting. Now, in the user prompt, we provide the log sample, and then we set the queue for the model. Let us initialize this and now run this. Now you see model has produced the response in the format we are looking for. Now with this one-shot prompting, every time we are providing this example, one example in the prompt, and that will help the model to be consistent in the response. So if you run this multiple times, we are going to get the same format in the response. Unlike in the zero shot, where when you were running multiple times, the response format was changing. So this is the benefit of one-shot prompting. Let us implement the next use case, which is our last use case in this notebook, which is educational summaries and explanation. Now here, the task is to create educational summaries that require clear and precise explanations. So let us see how zero shot look like for this requirement. So here we are saying in the system prompt that you act as a science tutor for 5th grade student. Your task is to summarize the specific concepts. And in the user prompt, this is the topic the user is sending. So this one is photosynthesis. And for this, the model is expected to produce the summary. Here, clearly model is able to produce the response for this topic, which is photosynthesis. But then we feel that this may not be good enough for grade 5 student. So what we want to do is that we want to format this output in a specific way. And what is that format? So here in the system prompt, we are setting the same instruction or the role that you act as a science tutor for 5th grade student. Your task is to summarize the scientific concepts as per the example provided below. Now we are providing one example. In the example, we are saying that for the asked topic, you need to generate a summary like this. So in the summary, you need to have the definition, then you need to have the explanation, and then you need to have example. So these three things, and one more, the importance. So basically, when you generate a summary on a topic, you need to cover these 4 key points, which is the definition, the explanation, then example, and finally the importance. So with this example, now if user asks any new topic and just set the queue for the model, here the summary, model should produce the response in the similar manner. So let us see. Now we can clearly see that now the summary is much better and it is following the example provided in the system prompt as part of one-shot prompting. Great. So this is all about this lesson. But before we conclude, I would like to mention that when you are implementing any use case with one-shot prompting, you need to consider those 2 prompt strategies, which is writing clear instructions and breaking your complex tasks into simpler subtasks. Okay, I will be sharing the link of this notebook in the description. You can just go through this and you can play around. In the next lesson, we will be talking about another prompt technique, which is chain of thought prompting.